this is terrible. But you know what? I still want to win a gold. What can I do? And he says, you know what? Let me not worry about what's happened. Let me try and look at the future. I'm not about to go away and become a beggar somewhere. I'm not about to give up on my dream. I still have some of the stuff you talked about, attitude, courage, determination, will. Hey, I have all this, and I also have one more thing, which is, I have a left hand. Yeah. So Karli Tagax goes out with his left hand and starts shooting. Okay, a hand which could not hold a cup of tea and take it to his lips without spilling the tea. And that hand, he said, I'm going to trade it to become a good shooting hand. And he goes, starts practicing. Within 30 days of losing his right hand, Tagax is back on the shooting range, practicing, trying to shoot with his left hand. 6 months later, Hungarian national championship, he goes to see his friends shooting. Okay, and all those friends say, wow, so nice. You know, you've come to see us shoot. He says, no, I've come to compete. And he starts competitive rifle shooting with his left hand. Unfortunately, of course, after that, the World War broke out, and there was no Olympics in 1940, there was no Olympics in 1944. 1948, the Olympics came to London. The Hungarian Olympic Association said, let's take this man, acha nahi hai. It happens there also. They took him along, and guess what? Shooting with his left hand, the winner of the Olympic gold in 1948 was Karli Tagax. Okay. I think it's a fantastic story, and I think there are just 3 simple lessons from it, which I think all of us must remember. The first one, focus on your strengths. Don't worry about what you don't have. Most of us have a PhD in our shortcomings, right? I could have been successful if not for, and now fill it up with your favorite story. Yeah, paisa nahi hai, baap ke paas paisa nahi hai. Yeah, went to school but didn't go to the right school. Can speak but can't speak English. Can speak English but have a very strong accent. Who cares, right? We find weaknesses in ourselves. And some of you, how many of you actually worked in a corporate?
How many of you?
Worked with a corporate in an organization. Yeah, lots of you here. And like me, if you've been there, we become past masters at telling people what's wrong with them. We have an annual appraisal, yeah, where you have to tell someone, you're a great guy, fantastic, very good, but, yeah. And then, there's this entire function called HR, which specializes in but, in telling people what's wrong. Yeah, it is almost seen as incomplete if we don't remind you of your weaknesses, right? So don't let that happen. I think the real winners, and I see a lot of winners sitting in front of me today, focus on their strengths. Don't worry about what you don't have. Just focus. So what's it all about? Don't have right hand? Forget it. You still have left hand. Go for it, right? And if we all start thinking like this, you'll suddenly discover winning comes more easy. The next one is when you get knocked down, I think you need to learn to stand up quickly. Particularly in some cultures, and ours is a big one on this, when somebody is down, lots of people will come and push him further down. Oh, really, bichara, tera to bad luck kharab hai. I think, you're really unlucky, or whatever you do, you'll fail. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, so reassuring. Just imagine people telling you that, you'll never get there. So I think it's important that if you get knocked down, stand up quickly. Think of it like a boxer, right? If you get knocked down, you've got to get up before the count of 10. If you don't, it's all over. Right? So I think get yourself to start believing like this. And don't ever imagine that you won't get knocked down. Life is all about getting knocked down and then learning to stand up, and to stand up quickly. And the last one, of course, is, and I think you guys said it right up front, attitude matters more than skill. Right? Skills are easy to acquire. That man didn't win a gold because he had great skill in his right hand. He won a gold because he had something happening inside over here. If this is right, you can train your right hand, you can train your left hand, you can do 100 things. Right? The important bit is to ensure that you get it right as far as your attitude is concerned. And if you've got that, I'd submit that, you've got what it takes to actually start winning. Right? And if you've got that and you want to win, there's another story that you must remember, and this is really about the Chinese bamboo. Okay? It's an amazing tree. It's a tree that grows to a height of about 80 feet. Can you imagine? That's like, an 8-story building in Pune and 10 stories in Bombay, perhaps. It's like That's the kind of stuff that you get in the street. Here's the interesting bit. It takes about, I think, 5 years and 3 months to rise to its full height of 80 feet. Okay? And here's the interesting bit. For the first 5 years, you see nothing. You just see a small, squiggly little plant on the surface. You don't see anything. Right? For the first 5 years, all the activity is under the surface, is underground. This entire massive root network is being built, which can then support a tree that will be 80 feet tall. Okay? For 5 years, you see nothing. And in 3 months after that, it just shoots off and becomes 80 feet tall. Now, you know what happens to most of us? We're all like these Chinese bamboo trees, with one small difference, right? After the 6 months, we say, "Itna sara pani dala hai, kuch nahi ho raha hai," right? So we check, are there roots or not? So we pull it out and check. And guess what? When you check like that, yeah, for sure you'll get no roots here, right? We don't have the patience to survive those 5 years when you can't see anything. But it's a good lesson to remember that nothing of substance will happen in a hurry. Okay? If you want to build something, you've got to be willing to wait it out. You've got to be willing to get that root network, to get the rest of the stuff in place before you can get that 80-foot tall bamboo tree. Okay? But you know what? We all live in an era of 2-minute noodles and instant coffee. So no one's willing to wait for 5 years, right? Particularly not if their name happens to have something like private equity or venture capital attached to their names. No one's got patience. They all want results in a hurry. Okay? So I think it's a good one to remember that, look, if you want to achieve something of significance, be willing to wait. Right? We often reward short-term results. One shower, you'll find some mushrooms coming up and say, "Wow, saw that? Happened so quickly." And then everybody thinks mushrooms are the best thing. 2 days later, it's gone. Right? Nothing of substance will happen in a hurry, and therefore I think it's good to remember that winning is really hard work. Okay? It's 5 years of slogging. It's 5 years of slogging when nothing seems to be happening. Right? The whole world will look at you and say, "What's going on?" Nothing seems to be happening. But you know inside of you that you're building a root network, which will hopefully one day help to build this tall tree. Okay? Moving on. I think a lot about this habit of winning is really about self-belief. It's about this ability to imagine a future for yourself. It's this ability to think for yourself and then make that happen. Now, unfortunately, many of us are far more rational, those quantitative, data-driven types. And we say, "Show me the evidence," right? I'll believe it when I see it, right? That's typically the way we tend to look at some of these things. So I want to have some fun now. And I want to show you a bit of research which was done by a French marketing company. And it suggested that brands with red logos are more easily remembered by consumers. And some of you might recall some of your favorite brands. What I want to do is to show you a set of brands, and I want to see how many of these you can remember. How many of those red logos, lots of brands, some of them in red, and I want to see how many of those you can remember. Okay? Can you see it from at the back? You can, good. So you have lots of brands, Colgate and Hanes and ESPN and DHL and Castrol and JVC, KFC, lots and lots. It's a good idea to see how many of these you can remember, and I'm going to try and see, lots of red brands which have actually done well. There are lots of red brands not over here, and don't miss that the TiE logo also has red in it. Try and see how many you can remember. I'm going to take the slide off in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah? Now, I don't know, anyone who thinks he can remember more than 10 red logos? Put your hand up if you think you can. Someone? Yeah, okay, a couple of them. 3, 4, not bad, okay. Yeah, but here's a question for you. How many brands with green logos can you recall?
Subway.
Sorry? Subway. I find that very often, most people guess Subway right because it's usually that time of the day when you start feeling a little hungry. But you're right. What happened? Were there green logos there? There were lots and lots of green logos. Okay? But what happens is we went looking for the red. and we found red logos. And what happens to us is, life is like this. If you think of those red logos as, let's say, problems, okay, and you imagine that the world is out to get you, environment is tough, funding nahi hoga, life is not easy. If you imagine all of this, you're looking for all of these red logos, and guess what happens? You find them. Wherever they are, with great difficulty, you'll find each and every one of them. And when someone tells you there are lots of opportunities, lots of good stuff, that's the green logos, right? And do you see them? You don't. And you don't see them, not because they're not there, but because you are not looking for them, yeah? So if you look over here, you've got Subway, which actually is a lot of yellow and white and some green, but like I said, depending on the time of the day, people either say Subway or Heineken. Okay, so I think there are lots of green logos, and as you can see, it's really about believing first and then seeing, and not necessarily seeing first and then believing. So I think you need to tell yourself that if life has to change for us, if your world has to change, right, it has to often start with a change inside your own head, inside your own mindset, your own self-belief. Okay, I love the story of catching a rabbit, and it was actually something that was told by Jack Ma, who's the founder of Alibaba.com. A great story on being an entrepreneur. He was an English teacher in China, and then went on to set up Alibaba.com, which is one of the bigger internet successes in the world. And he tells the story that, several years ago when he was trying to start Alibaba.com, he says, when I came out, there were lots of things I could have done. It's like there were a lot of rabbits running around in my garden, and I could have chosen any one rabbit to catch. But here's the trick, okay? The way to catch a rabbit is to focus on one rabbit and try and catch it. After you catch that rabbit, put it in your pocket, then look for the next one. What happens to many of us is, we get excited. We see so many rabbits running around, we say, gosh, it must be simple to catch a rabbit because there are so many of them. So we start trying to catch that guy in white, and just as we're trying to catch him, he slips away. And we say, doesn't matter, there's another one coming here. And that's a black one. And you say, let me go after that one. And just before you can catch it, you find there's another brown, cute little rabbit coming along. I'm going to catch that one for sure. And by the end of the day, what's happened? You're very tired. You've been working very hard, trying to catch rabbits all day long. And how many have you caught? Zilch. Right? So I think it's an important lesson to remember. And it's true for goals in life. It's true for opportunities. It's true for rabbits. Right? What you need to do is to focus on one rabbit. Right? Don't get distracted by all the other rabbits running around. Okay? Because what happens is, the minute you get distracted, you will find that your will to catch one rabbit weakens. Just when you're about to catch one, you say, yeah, it's not so good. I don't like it. It's not large enough, or it's not small enough. And then you see another one, oh, this is, I think, a global opportunity, much bigger. And then you move to another one, oh, this is really a great opportunity because, a lot of funding happening over here. So you keep shifting your rabbit. And at the end of the day, you're a tired man or woman, but you've not caught any rabbit. So good advice to have, right? The way to catch a rabbit is to focus on one, catch it, put it in your pocket. If you find that you cannot catch your rabbit, change your tactics. Don't change your rabbit. Okay? Most of us make the mistake of changing the rabbit and not questioning our strategy or the tactics that we're using to try and catch that rabbit.
Can you give an example on that?
Of catching a rabbit?
Rabbits, yeah.
Yeah, lots of examples I can think of. If you think of companies which have tried to do well,